We turn now to the executive director of the United Nations World Food Program, Cindy McCain. She joins us this morning from Kinshasa in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
In Gaza, we have this man-made catastrophe with Israeli authorities blocking the entry of all aid from March until about May 18th. The Trump administration said Israel needs to let in food. So are your deliveries consistently now getting through?
Well, let's start with the fact that this is a catastrophe, and you're absolutely correct, and I'm very grateful that you're covering this issue. They have let a few trucks in. This is a drop in the bucket as to what's needed. Right now, we have 500,000 people inside of Gaza that are extremely food insecure and could be on the verge of famine if we don't help bring them back from that. We need to get in. And we need to get in at scale, not just a few dribble of the trucks. Right now, as I said, it's a drop in the bucket.
So how many trucks need to be getting in daily to address the scale of the need you see? And can they get into northern Gaza?
Well, prior to during the ceasefire, I should say, we were getting in 600 trucks a day. Right now, we're getting in maybe 100, something like that. So it's not nearly enough. And it needs to be going to the correct places. So the various gates, it's inconsistent as to how the gates are open. It's inconsistent as to the roads we can use. The roads that are the better roads, the ones that can get us further along, aren't open at all. It's complicated right now. And again, I will tell anybody who will listen, we need to get in and get in at scale and be allowed to feed these people before a further catastrophe occurs.
Your organization announced at least 15 of your trucks were looted when they entered southern Gaza en route to bakeries. Israel has consistently said that the looting is being carried out by Hamas. Have you seen evidence that it is Hamas stealing the food?
No, not at all. Not in this round. Listen, these people are desperate, and they see a World Food Program truck coming in, and they run for it. This doesn't have anything to do with Hamas or any kind of organized crime or anything. It has simply to do with the fact these people are starving to death. And so we will continue to go in. We will continue to go in with food and the kinds of supplies that we need to help the bakeries operate and make sure that we can continue to do that and hopefully be able to do more of it. But again, we can't do this unless the world community puts pressure on this. We can't be allowed to sit back and watch these people starve to death with no outside diplomatic influence to help us. These poor souls are really, really, really desperate. And, having been in a food riot myself some years ago, I understand the desperation very well.
Well, 5 days ago, Prime Minister Netanyahu vowed to take control of all of Gaza, which seems to be a shift from going in, carrying out raids, and then withdrawing. We've seen the Pope speak out. We've seen the leaders of France, of Canada, of the UK calling the cutting of aid egregious. Netanyahu said criticism like that is feeding Hamas and really feeding anti-Semitism. What do you make of that pushback from him, that criticisms of the state are feeding hate?
What I do know is they're not feeding people. And the most important part of this is that's what we're supposed to be doing. I'm very grateful for anyone, the Pope, any of the folks that did shout out and say, listen, we need to get more in. But I can't tell you as to exactly what Netanyahu's thinking or anything else. What I do know for a fact is that we need food to get into Gaza to avoid an utter catastrophe.
The Israeli army had announced aid will be distributed under what they described as an American plan. Prime Minister Netanyahu said it'll be American companies giving food directly to Palestinian families in safe zones secured by the Israeli military. There's reporting in the Washington Post that these are armed private contractors doing logistics. Palestinians will have to submit to identity checks to be fed, and that would replace the UN coordinated networks, presumably also the World Food Program. Do you know how much longer you will be allowed to operate in Gaza?
I've not seen a plan from anybody We continue to operate doing what we do best, and we are the largest and the best at what we do, I might add. We've never been, a plan has never been proposed to us.
We haven't heard in the press, at least from the administration, any of the details either, but we do know that the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, announced back on May 9th that this is going to be a U.S. initiative involving only Israeli security. The Israelis are not distributing food. Secretary Rubio was just in Rome. He said he did meet with you. Did you share with him any of your concerns?
Well, we had a very frank discussion about exactly what was going on and what we could do to help alleviate a lot of this. Some of it, I'm not sure that they were completely clear on how we operate and the size that we are and the logistics ability that we have to be able to do this. So we had a very nice discussion. As you know, the Rubio family and the McCain family have been friends for a very long time. And so I was grateful that he would take the time to listen to what we had to say and let us discuss exactly how we feel we should be able to operate.
Did he assure you that the U.S. supports the UN and the World Food Program continuing to supply food in Gaza?
We didn't really discuss the U.S. Participation in any of this. He was really concerned with and really trying to understand how we operate and the need for exactly what we do. We will work with anybody as long as it feeds people and feeds people safely, I might add, on the ground, and keeps our people and people from other agencies safe as well.
Executive Director of the World Food Program, Cindy McCain, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
And we'll be right back. And we're back with another McCain. Jack McCain is the son of Cindy and the late Senator John McCain. He's a Navy veteran who served in the Afghanistan war, and he joins us now from Kyoto, Japan. Good to have you here.
Thank you. Incredibly glad to be here.
So we know when you were in Afghanistan, you flew alongside and helped to train some of the Afghan Black Hawk pilots. Why is it important to you now to speak out on their behalf? Are any of your personal contacts there at risk?
Yes. Basically, everyone that we were unable to get out is at risk. These pilots and crew members fought the Taliban toe-to-toe. And because of that, the Taliban is trying to seek them out for reprisal, something that they distinctly promised that they would not do. So not only are they in danger, but we owe them a debt. I believe that I'm vertical and still on this earth because of the efforts of my Afghan pilots and crews. And not only do I owe them personally, but the nation owes them a debt of honor, one that we have yet to repay. Everyone, interpreters, ground troop pilots that worked and fought alongside the United States at our behest should be able to be evacuated here to the United States and should be taken care of.
So you were active duty at the time of the very chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I know you helped to get Afghans out during that period of time. There were a lot of Afghans airlifted out. Who was left behind and what promises were made?
Yeah, the problem is everyone was left behind, whether it was family members, including family members of U.S. servicemen, whether it was pilots, crews, the people that I worked with, special forces. We did everything we could to get as many as we could out, but due to the chaos of the withdrawal and frankly, the lack of planning on the part of the United States government, it was up to individuals and sometimes smaller military units to help either, in my case, I had to triage who we were going to take out. I had to prioritize operational pilots over pilots in training versus crew members in the back, simply because everyone was trying to do everything they could. So we have tens of thousands that fought alongside us left behind, each one of them in danger in their own way, not to mention family members that can be used as tools of leverage against those that are even here in the United States now.
And to that point, under the Taliban right now, the daughters, the wives, the female family members of a lot of these people who worked with Americans are facing some pretty tough conditions. However, this administration just recently said through Homeland Security that it is safe for Afghans to return. So those here could be sent back. Some Afghans who had arrived here and been given temporary protection. Does what the U.S. government said match in any way what you are hearing is happening on the ground?
I would disagree with the entire notion that it is safe for anyone, especially if they've been in the United States, to return to rule under the Taliban. Whether they are male, female, young, old, that regime has proven itself to not only have gone back on every promise they made to us, but to have no problem using human lives as pawns to imprison, torture, rape, kill, even sell into slavery.
So there are a number of veterans of the war in Afghanistan who serve currently as lawmakers in the United States Congress, and it is Congress that sets the number of visas for these special immigrant visas, SIVs. We checked. There are more than 144,000 applicants in the pipeline, but there are only 11,000 visas left. So that's not even counting family members here. Have you gotten any indication from the lawmakers you know that they are going to raise that cap?
No, I have not. And it is an utter travesty that is the case. People on both sides of the aisle have served in Afghanistan or have fought alongside Afghans, much like me. And the political theater that has taken place of simply ignoring the problem can only be summarized by the word despicable. This is an issue of humanity. This is an issue of national honor, and this is a debt that we owe. So I would urge lawmakers on both sides of the aisle to solve this problem because it is not going to go away. It is your job to legislate, so please do so.
So that's in the hand of lawmakers. That was a problem even during the last administration. Now, though, we have this extra complication where the Trump administration has put in orders to restrict refugee admissions and said the U.S. should prioritize people who can, quote, fully and appropriately assimilate and who do not pose a threat to the security or welfare of the United States. That's made it hard for Afghan refugees, family members, to enter here. How do you reassure the public that these refugees are not a risk? Even the Vice President of the United States has said he does not trust the vetting of refugees.
Well, I think I passed the ultimate test in that I literally put my life in these people's hands. So not only are they worthy of trust, but they are worthy of our care. The vetting process has taken place. It continues to take place. And if vetting is the issue, fantastic. Let's pass legislation to solve that problem. Let's make sure everyone up to this point has been vetted.
Before I let you go, your father famously said it matters less that you can fight, but what you fight for is the real test. I know you feel passionately about this particular issue. Can you ever see yourself entering politics to fight for other issues?
That's a very interesting question, one that I happen to get asked fairly regularly. And I would say, trying to follow his example, that the best life is one lived adventurously and if in service of a cause greater than one's self-interest. I'm doing that. And if someday that does take me to office in service of the nation, then by all means. But to live a life simply focused on the single goal of attaining public office is not, in my mind, a life purposefully lived. In service, in office, it is a purposefully lived one, but that should not be the overriding goal of your life.
Mm-hmm. We will continue watching. Jack McCain, thank you for weighing in on this important issue.
Thank you so much.
We'll be back in a moment. This year, the bipartisan group led in the past by then Congressman Mike Waltz went from the House floor, where they had just passed the president's spending bill in an early morning vote, down to the Washington Mall. Cleaning the Vietnam War Memorial may have been delayed, but the mission was not deterred by either lack of sleep or rain. You were up all night. Why did you show up in the rain, in your suit, to still do this?
Because this is way more important. You know, sometimes people ask me, God, Seth, Washington is a mess today. Is it as bad as Iraq? And every single day, the answer is, this is easier than the war. Mm-hmm. And it's important to keep that perspective.
Do you think that the divisions in our country now are in the same place, different from what this country went through around the time of Vietnam, when it was a very divided country?
You know, I think there are actually a lot of parallels, and one of the lessons that we should learn is to do right by our veterans. If for no other reason, we got to work on coming together. Mm-hmm. And you know, it's difficult when it feels like we've got the divider in chief, to quote one of his former officials, at the head of our government right now. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that those of us in Congress, especially veterans, can't work together.
Iowa Republican Zach Nunn spent 20 years as an Air Force intelligence officer and still serves in the Air Force Reserve. North Carolina Democrat Don Davis also served in the Air Force and told us that his work as a mortuary officer at nearby Andrews Air Force Base makes Memorial Day especially important to him. After the wall was clean, we talked about their work together on Capitol Hill. Congress did give that boost to pay last year to the troops. Is it enough in this economy, though? Is the country doing enough?
We know that families are still struggling to make ends meet, taking care of the day-to-day, kids putting gas in the tank. So it's definitely, I'm sure, not enough, but we are moving, I believe, there with our junior enlisted in particular in the right direction, not only with pay, but looking at broader quality of life issues, housing, child care that's available on our installations.
America spends more than any other country on its defense. How is it possible we have this happening to our troops?
We've tried to work together on things that not only help veterans, leading veteran suicide bill, assistance to families in the military. I'm proud the bill that we just passed is going to be able to extend a 22% tax cut to military families. I'm proud that we got a child tax credit in there. I'm thrilled that we were able to get our bill in there that worked towards giving a family a tax credit for adoption. We've got 2 adopted kids. This goes a long ways to helping a middle American family, whether you're military or not, be successful going forward.
But I want to also say it's important to do all of this for recruitment, retention, addressing quality of life. We recruit families. But also when I think about being right here at the Vietnam Memorial, and I think about our service, my service, you don't do it for the money. You do it because you love the country. So because of that love for the country, realizing that families are fighting for our country, the service members and their families, we have to continue to just look at prioritizing our military families.
How do you tell people now, encourage them to enter public service at a time when they're being told, even by the federal government,
Right.
Private sector is going to be more rewarding for you?
Look, Margaret, I think you highlight a really important part here. There's a number of ways that people can be called to serve. It's one of the things that I think has actually made us most combat effective in Congress is finding people who are mission oriented, who are working together. I tell my kids the things that they could potentially learn in the military will echo throughout their entire life. But it's up for every American to make that decision, that pathway. You're right, less than 1% of Americans are serving, but that 1% distinguishes itself time and time again. And there's lots of great ways to public service. Don and I have worked together to get more teachers, more nurses, more doctors. There's all great calls to public service. The federal government has a role to play in this, but ultimately, it's up to Americans to decide how do they best give back to the communities that they represent. We certainly felt that military service was a way to do it, but I think we came to it in our own pathway.
And I would love to say to any young person listening right now that's remotely interested, I had an amazing career serving in the United States Air Force. I love serving our country. And it was definitely a great career for me. And now as a member of the Armed Services Committee, we're doing everything to continue to make sure all of our branches are vibrant, and we're doing things to make sure we support them. Give it a shot.
When we talk about the Vietnam War and the memorial, behind you there are, it looks like students coming to reflect this morning. 3 million people died in that war, 58,000 Americans among them. I wonder this Memorial Day, who are you thinking of?
Look, this is an ancient history. This is living history. I think of my uncle who flew spotter planes over Vietnam. I think of my dad who had the choice between enlisting or joining the ROTC program. I also think about my mother, who got back home, taking care of, at that point, her career as a nurse. My aunt, who had 2 little girls. These are the stories that I think it's so important that young people do have the opportunity to learn about. One, so we never enter this kind of a situation again, where we send men and women off to fight, and they come back home not to a hero's welcome, but as a despised class. Peace through strength is a real deterrent, but also knowing that we've got a military that when we commit to fight, we have to go in there knowing that we have a strategy, a plan, and that we're not going to be bringing people home injured, broken, or shattered to a country not ready to receive them.
It's so warming to see young people, kids walking through and looking at the Vietnam Memorial. I think of those throughout my community back home in eastern North Carolina, who I know served our country during Vietnam, and I go beyond Vietnam. I think of Corporal Ryan Russell, who's from eastern North Carolina, who was killed in Iraq, and I have a special relationship with his mom, Kathy, and we're doing everything to commemorate those who are killed, not just Vietnam, but in all wars and conflicts, so that they know that the families, that we're standing with them. There's a way to get through this healing process that so many families are going through, those tears, that they're not alone. But not only that, but to embrace nationally when we see this, to think about all those who ultimately gave their lives in service of our country.
And we will be right back. That's it for us today, but on behalf of all of us here at Face the Nation, to our military, our veterans, and especially their families, thank you for your service. We are all in your debt. Until next week, for Face the Nation, I'm Margaret Brennan.